So now everybody's asking, is Sean O'Malley a fraudulent champion? I mean, he did beat Aljamain Sterling, who everybody thought was a fraudulent champion. He then defended his belt against Chito Vera, a fraudulent title contender, and his career rise was fraudulent. He didn't face one stiff wrestler. And once he faced Merab Dvalishvili at UFC 306, game over, Jack, because he couldn't handle the heat. Merab Dvalishvili is our new bantamweight champion. The best division in the UFC? Probably. A boring champion? What's new? So yeah, great event. We'll be talking about all that. But first, how did Merab Dvalishvili beat Sean O'Malley? Because that is the biggest surprise to everybody. And if you looked at our film study, which is right here, because all the TFL family gets it, you'd have known that Merab's dangerous on the feet. You would have known it. Now, in that film study, we talked about the foot sweeps of Merab Dvalishvili specifically, and we did get a couple of them in this fight, but mainly we just got him ducking in on hips and getting the takedown. And the reason we didn't see too much of that against Henry Cejudo and Petr Yan is because they can defend double leg takedowns. Turns out Sean O'Malley can't. Surprise, he didn't fight one wrestler coming up. And, you know, it's not really, it's not a shock. It's not. I like Sean O'Malley. I actually picked him on verdict to win. But I knew going into this fight, this wasn't an easy fight. This was very, very, very difficult and a tall order for Sean O'Malley. And guess what? He did not rise to the occasion. So Merab just managed to duck in on the hips, consistently get in on the hips off of either a kick. Sean O'Malley, like the first round, Sean O'Malley overextended. We're going to be talking about overextending on your crosses a lot in this episode because Ignacio Bahamondes is a thing. But Sean O'Malley overextended. He let Merab get in on his hips, on the legs, and he didn't do anything about it. He was content to go to the ground and then fight his way up. And if you look back at the successes that Henry Cejudo and Petr Yan had that made Merab Dvalishvili's life very hard, it was the fact that they said, hey, you're not just going to take me down. You are going to come in here and you're going to have to work for your takedowns. Jose Aldo, he went 0-for against Jose Aldo at Elevation, I get, but he didn't get a single takedown out of Jose Aldo. Like, why wouldn't you watch that fight? I know Sean O'Malley likes Jose Aldo. I mean, Jose Aldo is the man. But Merab Dvalishvili managed to duck in on the hips and just control Sean O'Malley. It was really elementary what O'Malley was bringing. Like, the freaking rubber guard, dude. Like, I know the jiu-jitsu guys out there are like, oh, yeah, rubber. In mixed martial arts, rubber guard does not work. It hardly works in jiu-jitsu if you want to be real. 10th planet, just garbage, really. But yeah, Merab went out there and put on an amazing performance of control by just making sure Sean O'Malley couldn't do what he wanted in this fight. Another thing you'll notice that Merab Dvalishvili brought to the table was just a lot of volume of everything. Once he got that first takedown and Sean O'Malley started thinking, oh, it's going to be incredibly hard to get up. That was it for Sean O'Malley. Merab did a great job of saying, hey, I can take you down at any time I want, just so you know, even if he couldn't. I can take you down when I want. That, putting that thought into somebody's head is a huge thing. Like, it's hard. It's hard to get that thought into a champion's head, much less any regular fighter's head, right? Like, Sean O'Malley's a champion. Merab I'm going sideways, forwards, backwards. I'm switching stance, and normally the stance switching is something we see Sean O'Malley confuse people with, but when the dynamic is there and like Merab switches stances and their lead legs are together and all Merab has to do is lean down and grab the lead leg, that struck the fear of God into Sean O'Malley. I mean, it was just a lot of volume and just control time, and it was incredible to watch because Merab he's known for his volume. We knew what he was about, and anybody acting surprised about what Merab was going to bring to the table is fooling themselves. So next has to be Umar Nurmagomedov, right? I mean, let's be real. Umar is the number one contender. He beat Corey Sandhagen, but he's kind of had this coddled approach too, to where he hadn't had to fight anybody good. But he did beat Corey Sandhagen, so it's a lot like O'Malley, who's like fighting nobodies. Fights Chito Vera, he loses. And then he fights Petr Yan, comes out on top on a questionable decision that a lot of people say, hey, he didn't really win that fight. And then he fights Aljamain Sterling. Umar, I'm not saying he's that. Now, don't get me wrong. Umar's legit as it gets. Corey Sandhagen did show some chinks in the Dagestani armor, though, when it comes to how to approach it. I mean, we saw it with Saryukin first, and then Volkanovski did it. Poirier did it. I think it's incredibly intriguing to see what a fighter like Merab Dvalishvili brings to the table. Because if you remember, we talked about it in the pre-fight episode. His background is in judo. He does Chidalba, which is the folk-style wrestling out of Georgia, the country he's from. And then he's a silver medalist in the World Combat Sambo Championship. All three of those things have something in common. They're jacket wrestling. He's got this great jacket wrestling style that can reap havoc on anyone. And if Umar stumbles against that, and if he slows down in the later rounds after Merab's been going and his takedowns aren't working, boy, that's a great place to see where Umar goes. And that's going to be a great place to see where Merab Dvalishvili goes. He's not the most exciting fighter. No, I get it. But if you enjoy control and mat returns and things like that, you love Merab Dvalishvili. You love it. So, yeah, great win for Merab. I'm excited to see what's next. You got that. Figueiredo's what he said he wanted, which would be his 5th straight champion. So if you think back, it's Aldo, Yan, Aldo, Cejudo, and now Sean. And then Figueiredo, who was the former flyweight champion, would also be in that mix. So Sean O'Malley got in his own way. Like, he really didn't do a good job of throwing out feints to confuse Merab, and he didn't connect. We've seen Merab get hurt, and that's one of the things we also talked about in the preview episode. We talked about how Marlon Moraes and Henry Cejudo hurt Merab Dvalishvili, and Sean O'Malley doesn't hurt people. He puts people out. We didn't see any of the feints. We didn't see nothing from Sean O'Malley. I'm talking just a pathetic performance from the incumbent champion who was coddled coming up. I don't know what happened. So, we'll get into this in a minute. But there was no feints coming his way. It was a lot of kicks. He didn't throw any of the knees that he usually throws. You normally see Sean O'Malley come with knees on people who want to duck in on his hips. He constantly allowed his hips to get ducked in on by overextending. I mean, it was really just a wretched, bad Sean O'Malley performance. This isn't the Sean O'Malley we've seen in the past. Now, granted, the Chito Vera fight wasn't the most exciting, sure, but that was at no fault of Sean O'Malley's. This fight was completely Sean O'Malley's fault. The fight that his loss is completely his fault. He did it. No. He even went on X and said oh, I guess I'm not undefeated anymore. Going back to that whole Chito Vera nonsense where it's oh, I'm undefeated. Yeah, no, you're not. But okay, we get it. It's funny. Chito got lucky, and it turns out Chito did get lucky. So, thinking about the fight though, man, it just seemed like a timid performance from Sean O'Malley. Very, very timid. He couldn't stop the double leg takedown, and as I mentioned, it was an integral part of Cejudo, Aldo, and Yan's game plan. I'm gonna throw Aldo in there now, because I'm throwing Jose Aldo anywhere I can, right? But it was an integral part of those three guys' plans to stop the double leg, to slow Merab down to where he had to switch to a single leg to get his takedowns and do his foot sweeps. And he shined there. That's how he won those fights. So, what's O'Malley supposed to do? Well, it's supposed to be more than just give up a double leg. Hey, we'll do it and we'll work up from the guard. And he did a good job of getting to the fence at times. But then Merab, when he gets you to the fence, it's so what? I'm not worried about it. I ain't worried about a thing. And it showed. Like, it genuinely showed that he's not a great wrestler at all. Cejudo even mentioned it. He said he heard from a little birdie, whoever that is, that Sean O'Malley can't get up off his back to save his life. And we saw that. Like, Merab controlled him. Like, just sunned him. Like, even kissing on his back. Like, you can't kiss the homies in night in the cage anymore, man. Like, Merab got in trouble for that. It was funny. Weird situation. But, you know, it just seems like Sean O'Malley got in his own way on this fight. So I was watching the fight with some friends, and I said to myself, like, man, Sean O'Malley always, like, the difference between him and Conor McGregor is, like, the confidence is gone when he fights. Like, he doesn't go out and he's not confident saying, oh, are you ready? Come on, let's go. Are you ready? Huh? He's not doing any of that. He looks nervous when he steps into the cage. And he fought nervous. He got in his own way. All this talk about, I'm the superstar, I'm Conor McGregor. He has this pressure on him. There's this fear with a 50-foot virtual reality version of himself up there. Walking, he's looking at it, he's like, holy crap. And then he just, drops the ball. Horrible performance from Sean O'Malley. I wish it was a better performance. I wish we had better things to talk about for him, but we don't. Such is the method in which the pastry disintegrates. It's the way the cookie crumbles. So what's next for Sean O'Malley? I mean, I want Corey Sandhagen. Let's go take a look at the web real quick and see what's out there for him. Let's go to Sean O'Malley real quick. We'll pull him up. I don't know why we didn't just pull up Merab. The number 2 best bantamweight fighter. So you got Merab at the top. Sugar Sean. Umar is probably fighting Merab. You can rematch it with Petr Yan. You can do Davis and Figueiredo. The Corey Sandhagen fight's the one I want the most. Both of them are coming off of losses to wrestlers. Song Yadong, which would be kind of interesting. Cheeto Vera, no. Kyler Phillips, no. Rob Font. Batista. Let's hop over to the rankings real quick. Oh, they're not. There we go. Cejudo, maybe, even though he wants to go back down to flyweight. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Aldo, you could run him and Aldo. That'd be... Who's Jose Aldo fighting? Let's go pull that up real quick, huh? Jose Aldo. The GOAT. One of my all-time favorite fighters, hands down. Let's see. Jose Aldo's fighting Batista on October 5th. So, yeah, give him some time off, and let's book him versus Jose Aldo if Aldo wins. Because Batista, is he ranked at all? Yeah, he's ranked 11th. So that would put Aldo with a ranked win over a guy just below him. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I like that. Give me Jose Aldo. Valentina Shevchenko's champion again. Whoopee. They made a big deal about being a 2-time champion, and then they didn't realize that most of them are women. Amanda Nunes, Rose Namajunas, Zhang Wei Li, now Valentina Shevchenko. Probably Juliana Pena next. The fight stunk to high heavens, boys. That was a terrible fight. I hate watching Valentina Shevchenko fight. Get her out of here. Get her off of these cards. I'm tired of it. She's so boring. Hey, Alexa, let's do this. Let's grapple. I'm taking you down. Now, a bunch of the losers want to jump in and be like, oh, Valentina's great. You don't respect her. Look at this knockout of Jessica Ai. Not even remembering the knockout she had of like Katlyn Chookagian and other fighters like that. You know, like she has other finishes since then, but they want to bring in the one from 5 years ago. Yeah. And somebody that, I don't remember who it was, but they brought up a good point. Like, Alexa Grasso should have got up. And she didn't know how to get up. She knew what Valentina was coming in there to do. She was coming in here to wrestle. And she wrestled. And every single round, I was just like, after the takedown, I'm like, oh, we're going 5 rounds with this, aren't you? Because, like, we are. We are going 5 rounds. But, like, I'm looking at it. She has the win over Lauren Murphy. Andrade, elbows from the crucifix. That one kind of hurts. And then the ground and pound from Katlyn Chookagian, Sir Monero now. And then they go back to that Jessica Ai knockout. Like, that was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 7, 8, 9 fights ago that they're bringing up. Like Valentina, she's active, sure, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like she's been just, like she couldn't finish Joanna and Jacek, which, granted, Joanna's a champion in her own right, but like split decision to Talia Santos, should have lost. Lost to Alexa Grasso. Grasso beat her in September, or it was a draw in September, so a lot of controversy surrounding that. I don't have much to say on that fight. It kind of sucked, really. You know, I don't know if there's anything else to say. It was just a boring fight. I don't know. If you like Valentina Shevchenko, you know, great, more power to you, but you can have it. I'll pass. I'm gonna watch it just to say I talked about the fight, but that's about it for me. Diego Lopes beat up Brian Ortega in the first round and then faded pretty badly in the second and third rounds. You know, in the first round, he caught him with I believe it was a right over the top, and then a left hook. Like the right had him going down, and the left hook kind of woke him up. Ortega was in a bad way. He was hurt, but as they say with CTE City, not T-City, CTE City, he's tough to put away. He did a good job of not getting put away and surviving. And then Diego Lopes put out way too much effort. You know, he wasn't. Now, I did say, like, in the preview episode, we did talk about how I don't think Diego Lopes is the type of guy that's going to be scared to go to the guard with Brian Ortega. And Open Note Grappling, Will, my buddy, he talked about how he thought the Diego Lopes approach is going to be okay, because what are you going to do when Diego Lopes stands up? Like, he's not going to sit around and play in your guard like everybody else so you can cinch in a triangle. He's not dumb. So what does he do? He knocks him down. He gets in his guard. He plays with him, gets on his back. Ortega's landing some nice shots. But I felt like Ortega had an opportunity to get himself back into that fight. And he kind of didn't. He kind of was working his way there, and then Diego Lopes would just do what he does. One thing I'll say about Diego Lopes, he brings the same amount of energy in the first round every fight, and in the second and third round, you have a much better shot at beating him. And if you fight a fighter like Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway, or Alexander Volkanovski, they'll feast on that. They will feast on that and tear you apart. So he has to get his jitters and his action under control. Otherwise, he's going to end up in a bad spot of, like, remember Brian Ortega breaking out of the triangle against, or Volkanovski breaking out against Ortega's triangle, and then he just starts raining just punches down on him? That's where Diego Lopes will end up if he keeps fighting this same exact style. He needs to get it together. That said, he's now probably number 3 or 4. Let's go take a look at the web real quick. We are looking at Valentina Shevchenko. Yuck. Yeah, so he will be up there probably 3 or 4. The rankings have... So let's zoom a hair. Let's move over. You got Topuria, Volkanovski, Holloway, Ortega, who does not deserve to be number 3. Ortega beat Yair, so this definitely going to put him number 3 at least, which is hilarious because Movsar Evloev, who's fighting Sterling, number 8, is down at the bottom. And Evloev, if you don't know, beat Diego Lopes on short notice. So, you know, it's kind of funny how things work out. I like Diego Lopes. I think he's a fun fighter. He's exciting. He brings new things to the featherweight division. Featherweight has been kind of stale. Now with Topuria taking over, we have the opportunity for Max Holloway to be champion again. Yair's probably on his way out. You got Evloev. Emmett's lurking still. You got Sterling. And then you got kind of nothing after that. So Lopes will rocket his way up there. I like that. I like that a lot for Lopes. You know, he hurts bad. He got hurt, Brian Ortega bad, and then he faded. What else was on this card? Let's take a look real quick here and see. Actually, hold on. Let me pull the web so you can see what I'm seeing. I love this web screen, guys. Here we go. UFC 306. Let's pull it up. Esteban Ribovics and Daniel Zellhuber took absolute lumps out of each other. I mean, they beat the brakes off of each other. It was so much fun. That one fight of the night, and rightfully so. And what I really enjoyed about this fight was the fact that Zellhuber was the taller guy. He has the longer reach, and he knew he had to use his jab. But what Esteban Ribovics said is, hey, I'm going to channel my inner Canelo, whoop, and then come up with these shots underneath. He threw a lot of shovel jabs, up jabs, and he would uppercuts and all that, and he would come over the top. And what I thought he did well is the fact that he's throwing these punches and the combinations don't end the same, if that makes sense. He's ending with a right hook over the top or a left hook over the top or a low kick or an elbow or something. He's always mixing it up, and that's really what gave Zell Huber a lot of problems. It was a really fun fight. Super, super fun, super exciting, and I thought that that's one that they could run back 10 times. It would be exciting every single time. All right, so let's go back to the web real quick here. Let's see what else was on this. Ronaldo Rodriguez got hurt. Ode Osborne caught his kick and punched him with a cross, and he dropped him in the first round. Fun fact, this UFC, Noche UFC, Ronaldo Rodriguez was the only Mexican to win on the night, and it was a Mexican-themed event. Funny. You can count Raul Rosas, but he's American. We're taking him. Chihuahuas, huh? Norma Dumont beat the brakes out of Irene Aldana. I can't show you the cut here because it's that brutal, but like you could literally see her skull after the fact. It is probably the worst cut I've ever seen, and it was off of a headbutt. One headbutt opened it up, and then it just keeps opening up. Doctor did a bad job. Really should have hey ref, let's take a look at that. Ref did a bad job too. Who was the ref on that one? Let's expand here. Immortal, it doesn't tell me there. Let's go to prelim. It'll tell me here. I don't know where to find it. Referee Herb Dean. Of course, Herb Dean was terrible in the main event too. Ignacio Bahamondes. Let's take a second and talk about Ignacio Bahamondes here. He was awesome. He took on, who was it again? Manuel Torres. And I was talking about how this was going to be a fun fight. And it was until it wasn't. Ignacio Bahamondes is a switch hitter. He's really good at switching both stances. But he doesn't like set traps by switching. He's in orthodox, which is left hand forward. That's going to be reversed on the screen, obviously. And in comes Torres. And he steps on his back foot and drops him. Doesn't quite get the finish. Torres managed to fight his way back for a few seconds, and then same exact thing. Pow! And that's, again, overextending on his cross. He leaves his chin wide open. His hands are down. We're going to be talking about that on the newsletter this week, actually. We're going over a couple examples from this Bahamondes fight, as well as two more famous examples, Merab and McGregor. Obviously, we'll just be looking at the nuances of this little bitty stuff. But yeah, so I like Ignacio Bahamondes. I think he's a fun fighter, switch hitter, 155, super lanky for the division too. Real fun fighter though. You got to watch him if you haven't yet. What else? Ketlin Souza and Yasmin Yargui. Ketlin Souza won first round rear naked choke. Got on her back and just started fishing. Joshua Van and Edgar Sherriez had a banger of a fight. Short, small Joshua Van for the weight class. He is young. He's 22. Really brought the body work to Sherriez, and it paid dividends later. And then, of course, Raul Rosas took on Ariki Lang, and I thought this was going to be a tough test for him. He could possibly lose. Rosas came out, and he did his thing. Open up the Sphere card to fantastic fanfare. The Sphere. Let's talk about that, because that's probably the main attraction for a lot of people on this card. So if you don't know, the Las Vegas Sphere is a giant LCD combo screen, and the UFC had an event there, and it was literally like just 100-foot tall screen, and they had graphics of the Mayans back there, the conquest from conquistadors, and the Day of the Dead with sugar skulls and marigolds, and it was a whole bunch of crazy animations and stuff, and I couldn't help but think to myself, this is where this promotion needs to go. We got WWE in our back pocket. Hey, what works for you guys? And how can we build upon it and make it better? You can bet you'll see a WWE event there here soon, because that was perfect. Now, Daniel White said it was a one-and-done event. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy it. No. It ain't happening. Yeah, so I enjoyed the Sphere. I thought it was a fun twist on things. It was a break. You go from the Apex to this, and it's wow, night and day difference. Income inequality or whatever you want to call it. It was fun though. I found myself multiple times just like, wow, holy crap, this is tight, and I enjoyed it every time they changed the screen. So they didn't change like a lot of the issues everybody had was like, oh, they're not changing the screens the same on the prelims, and I'm thinking to myself like, it cost Marvel like $200 million to make an Iron Man movie, or not Iron Man, but like Shang-Chi movie. You know the CGI on this is going to be expensive too. They're not doing the whole card. They can't afford to do it. It worked though, and it worked well. It was super fun. I thought it was a great event. You know, even though the two main and co-main events were kind of boring. You know, you could say they're boring, but at the same time, I enjoyed myself, and that's all I wanted at the end of the day. When you got fights like, you know, Verna Jandiroba and whoever she fought last, or Rose Namajunas versus Manon Fiorot, and you're like, ugh. Why am I having to watch this as a main event 5 rounds of this? Because it's always going to a decision. I don't think that it's the way to go. But this was the way to go. I enjoyed it. I hope they do more of it. So next, Benoit
and even
Saint-Denis
up
is
high,
back after
as
his
Matt
loss to
Frivola
Poirier.
learned at UFC
Did a massive film
295.
study on him. He's fighting
When he's not
a
blasting the
not-so-much
body of his
Conor
opponents
next,
with the
which is
round kick,
interesting.
Benoit Saint-Denis is a
But
power
what kind of
puncher
stand up
that
to
gets
firepower?
into
What kind of
brawls
firepower does
often
Mortal
enough.
Kombat need to-
But
You know what?
his
Put out
biggest
some more
shot
time.
with
Get
the
in
highest
here.
consequence
Watch this
is
video.
his
I know you're on
left.
YouTube all the time.
In
Watch
wildest
this video,
exchanges,
and
he will
you'll
wing
know
it through
what
and hurt
Benoit
his
Saint-Denis brings
opponents,
to the
which
table.
either drops them or pushes them